FIC complaint number 2014-461, and what's been marked as complaint as Exhibit A. Point number 2 in that FOIA request, did you ask for a copy of the consent agenda and all supporting documents relating to a consent agenda for the Newtown School Board meeting of January 23rd, 2013?
I did.
Did you receive the supporting documents relating to that consent agenda?
I did not.
What would make you believe that there were any additional documents that you should have received?
Because on that board meeting, it should have shown a field trip for the Sandy Hook Elementary School Choir going to the New Orleans Super Bowl, which they were performing on February the 3rd, 2013.
Okay, and did you see any such items marked in the agenda or in the consent agenda for the Newtown School Board meeting of January 23rd, 2013?
No, I did not.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention to the same FOIA request, which is dated April 25th, 2014. Item 3, did you ask the Newtown Police Department to provide copies of the Newtown dispatcher call log sheets for December 14th, 2012 from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
I did.
And did you also ask for copies of all communications for December 14th, 2012 from 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. between the Newtown Police Department and the Connecticut State Police Trooper 1 helicopter?
I did.
Did you receive those?
No, I did not.
And referring to item 4 on that same FOIA request, did you also ask for the Newtown Police Department for copies of the dash cam video for Newtown Police Lieutenant Cinco for December 14th, 2012 from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
I did.
Did you receive that?
I got to view it for the first time yesterday, but it was not time-stamped, and it did not have the actual running time, which I've never seen before as a former Florida State Trooper, that they operate cameras like that.
Did you also request in that same FOIA request a copy of the dash cam video for Newtown Police Officer Figola for December 14th, 2012 from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
I did.
Did you receive that?
They said the document doesn't exist.
All right, now Mr. Halbig, directing your attention to the same FOIA request dated April 25th, 2014, point subparagraph 6. Did you ask for the town to provide the name and contact information of the environmental biohazardous waste removal company contracted by the town of Newtown or subdivision to conduct sanitation and cleanup on or after December 14th, 2012 at the Sandy Hook Elementary School premises?
I made that request directly to the Newtown School Board because they would have been responsible for hiring that company to sanitize and remove all of the biohazards at the Sandy Hook Elementary School.
Did you also ask for a copy of a contract in connection with that request?
I did.
Did you ever receive that?
Not of this day.
Okay. Now, directing your attention to the same FOIA request dated April 25th, 2014, subparagraph 8. Did you request a copy of the sign-in log referred to on the traffic sign posted outside the Newtown Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14th, 2012?
I did. I requested that to the police chief because he's in charge of the traffic. I did not.
You did not receive that?
I did not receive that request.
Okay.
That's very important.
Okay. Directing your attention to that same FOIA request, Mr. Halbig.
That's the Newtown Police Department. All 3 town agencies received the request on April 28, 2014.
Go ahead, next sentence.
The town responds to your request as follows.
Okay, and you agree then that the town is defined as the Newtown Police Department, the Board of Ed, and the first selectman. It's the first sentence, right?
Well, I would disagree.
It says, sir, the firm represents the Newtown Police Department, Board of Education, and first selectman collectively referred to herein as the town. Did I read that
Yeah,
correctly?
but that's what you're doing it to control the documents. I'm going to the
Did I read that
custodial
correctly?
records.
Did I read that correctly?
I read it, but I'm
All right, did I read
asking
that?
the school
Please
board.
answer my question. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're asking for porta potties, records of porta potties ordered on that date, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And the town responded to you that it does not have responsive documents, right?
That can't be true.
But that's how the town responded.
Well, that's great, but I'm not,
Please answer my question. Is that how the town responded?
that's how you responded.
And you're here today because you just don't believe it, is that right?
I'm not getting it from
Please
the
answer my
right
question.
end. I don't believe it.
You testified that you did not receive a copy of the sign-on log referred to on a traffic sign posted outside the Newtown Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14, 2012, right? And the town responded that it does not have that document, right? Isn't that what it
All right,
says?
Yeah, but you have nothing. You don't have any documents. I mean.
Isn't that what, sir, answer my question. Isn't that what it says? The town does not have responsive documents.
Absolutely, but you have documents from nobody.
And you just don't believe that,
I
correct?
don't believe you. I don't trust you.
We don't blame you, don't blame you. You don't blame him. Don't trust him.
Excuse me?
Don't do this, guys.
There can be no such disruption during this hearing. If that does occur again, the commissioner has the authority to clear the room. Thank you.
Mr. Halbig, you're here today because you do not believe that the town has porta potty records or responses in connection with the sign-in sheet. Is that right?
No, I believe
Is
the
that-
school
is that-
board,
answer my
I
question,
believe
please.
the school, I would just on the I would believe the school board has the records. They have school board policies. They're required to show expenditure, taxpayer dollars.
Let's try to stay focused on the FOI.
I agree, but I'm
documents
looking for
request.
custodian of records. The town is not the custodian of records, even though he writes that in there.
Do you have any reason to believe that I was not responding on behalf of the Board of Education, the town of Newtown, and the Newtown Police Department?
I do not believe.
You're asking for documents from an assistant school principal without knowledge of whether one existed at the school or not, is that
Well, there
right?
was one identified, the lady who was shot supposedly was the assistant principal.
And is your understanding that that was her title?
That's what they said in the news report.
Objection to that on hearsay grounds.
Sustained.
I think it should not be sustained because I think that he ought to be able to testify as to what he believed and thought at the time. At issue here is the sincerity and appropriateness of Mr. Halbig's request. His train of thought regarding this is very much at issue, so I respectfully request that you allow him to continue with that testimony and allow that to remain on the record.
I have to give the weight that's due. His beliefs don't hold any credibility if there's no witness to substantiate. I'll give you that, that's what I'm saying. I'll say I'll give you the opportunity, but his beliefs don't carry any weight.
I believe you testified that you reviewed those documents
I
yesterday.
did yesterday for the first time after a year of requests.
All right, and when were those documents first made available to you?
Yesterday.
All right, isn't it a fact that they were made available to you more than 6 months ago?
Absolutely not.
With respect to this document, the maintenance work order, did you ever make arrangements to come view the documents that are the subject of your request prior to yesterday?
Yes, on May the 6th.
All right, do you have any documents to support that?
Yes, I do. Be glad to provide it to, I do have it.
Yep.
May 6, 2015.
May 6, 2014.
That time period specifically, did you make any arrangements to come to town to inspect the documents or provide a check for $22.50, in which case the documents would have been provided to you?
No.
Mr. Halbig, I'm going to direct your attention to the response under subsection 1 of that letter dated September 3rd, 2014, in which it indicated that non-privileged and non-exempt documents would be produced once they received a check for $22.50. Would that be, what, 45 pages?
Absolutely, and it would not answer.
Okay.
Right.
Now, so that's 45 pages we're talking about. Now, when you went to view those documents yesterday, Were there 45 pages?
They were way over 45 pages,
Okay. How many pages do you think there were, Mr. Halbig?
over 100.
And what was the impetus for you to want to inspect those rather than receive cold copies?
Because the last time they sent me documents, they were documents that were not relevant to my request, and I had to pay for them. Or through my attorney's office, which I found out through Mr. Frank that he never paid him for those records. And you sent those records without me even paying them, without paying me. I can't believe you did that. That violates the FOIA laws. You send me documents and you complain that I didn't pay you.
Now, Mr. Halbig, why do you believe that the documents that are referred to in FIC case 14461 concerning porta potties ordered from Chatfield Porta Potties at Southbury, Connecticut, on or before December 14, 2012, why do you think that those copies of the bill for installation exist?
Because those porta potties were delivered to the school board property, and you can see them being staged on school board property. Therefore, the director of facility has to have knowledge, or he had to order those porta potties since it's on their property. One thing, school boards won't allow other things come on their property unless they order it or they're in control of it.
The potties that were delivered onto the property, they were delivered on the date of the incident?
Yes, ma'am. Within 3 hours of the incident.
Thank you.
On this floor?
Which one? 4, it's a full exhibit. And in this letter to your lawyer, it states the responsive documents are enclosed. Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
And there is a stack of documents attached, right?
Which are not relevant to what I was asking for. You send me documents
Is
that
there
no
a stack of
relevance.
documents attached?
Well, absolutely, you send me
All right.
documents.
Revised agenda that's attached, or January.
Yes, I cut it, correct.
And that's what you asked for, isn't it?
No, I asked for consent agenda attachments that explain what's on the agenda. I mean, on the school board consent agenda.
All right, so-
School board has a consent agenda,
I'm with
and
you.
every board member gets attachments that explains what's on the agenda, but what the issue is. That's what I wanted to see, what you did not provide.
All right, and if you flip, stay with me, Mr. Halbig.
I got you.
The first bullet point says item number 1, consent agenda. You see that? Sir, yes or no?
The consent agenda says minutes of December 17th, it says Newtown High School
Let me
reading.
stop you there. It's minutes of December 17th, 2012. You see that? Yes or no?
I didn't ask for the minutes. I did not ask for the minutes of December the 17th.
So, Mr. Halbig, what is it that you actually thought you were going to get when you asked for these documents?
Well, I was looking forward for January 23rd on the consent agenda. When the board approved that consent agenda 5-0, you should have seen field trips for 26 children going to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, which is an out-of-state field trip, which has to be approved by the principal, the superintendent, and the school board. Nowhere on any of those documents have I reviewed, can you find that field trip signed and approved. That's what I'm looking for. And it should be on the consent agenda, and the reason I say that, sir, is because if you look at the document that he just provided to me, you can actually see a field trip being approved on the consent agenda. Field trips are approved on consent agendas. You just cannot find the one that I'm looking for, and that's why I picked January the 23rd, because that's the last possible date for a field trip to be approved going to the Super Bowl out of state. It's School Board Policy 8-407, which is a board policy, and
Please
it
answer the question. The question was, where do you find it? I think that's been
School
answered.
board policy.
And what does that policy say, Mr.?
The policy says, and it describes that any performance by a musical group has to follow these procedures in order to be authorized on the field trip.
And what is that procedure?
The procedure is it has to be approved by the school principal, and first of all, whose idea is it? The next step is the principal has to recommend that these 26 children from Sandy Hook are allowed to, remember, it's the Sandy Hook Elementary School choir, that they're allowed to travel on this field trip to New Orleans to participate in the NFL Super Bowl singing pregame. The principal submits the field trip form to the superintendent. The superintendent has to approve it and send it to the school board to state to perform.
One is, it's impossible for me to authenticate this document. Secondly, it's clearly not authentic because it refers to a date when it was adopted, and there's a picture underneath of the Sandy Hook Elementary School chorus at the Super Bowl, which we all know took place sometime in 2013.
You have another witness to call?
Yes, Newtown Police Chief Kehoe, who's under subpoena.
Confirm and declare that the evidence you shall give in the case on question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth upon the case law and the perjury?
I do.
Chief, give your name for the record.
Michael Kehoe, I'll spell the last name, K-E-H-O-E.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chief Kehoe. My name is Attorney Kay Wilson. I represent Mr. Halbig. So your title is Chief of Police of the town of Newtown?
Yes,
Okay. How long have you been the police chief of the city of Newtown?
since 2001.
Okay. And did you take an oath when taking that job?
Yes,
Okay. Can you remind us of what that oath said?
follow the laws of the state of Connecticut, the Constitution of the United States of America.
Okay. Has anybody asked you not to discuss the incident of December 14, 2012?
Can you repeat the question?
Has anybody asked you not to discuss the incident of December 14, 2012?
No.
Okay. So you see the document that I've referred to, which has as a title, Detailed Call for Service Report, Chief Kehoe?
Yes,
Okay. So, have you ever seen a document like this before?
yes,
Is this an official police record?
yes.
And what does it purport to describe or to report?
It's a call for service report from 12 Dickinson Drive, Newtown, Connecticut. Dispatch time is 12/14/2012 at 093655. And among other information on this document.
Okay, and when did that call come in?
Call came at 12/14/2012 at 9:35:43.
Okay, and what was the call type?
Unwanted person?
And what does that mean, sir?
Objection relevant.
Commissioner and I would submit that we're trying to figure out if this is an authentic document, if it purports to be what it actually is, if it's it's a relevant question because we're not sure that we've really gotten the documents that we've requested. A detailed call for service report for December 14, 2012, and the town of Newtown, and it says 911 caller, 12 Dickinson Drive, and Chief Kehoe has indicated that the call type was unwanted person. So I asked him, what does that mean?
It's a generic term that we use from our CAD RMS system, which is a integrated dispatch records management system, indicating that this person has not been invited to this particular location.
Okay, thank you. Chief Kehoe, to your best understanding of this series of events and the calls that came into your station, isn't it true that the first caller on this day regarding the 12 Dickinson Drive incident at Sandy Hook in the town of Newtown was that there was a report of shots fired?
Objection.
Well, it goes to the issue of whether this has been doctored
Well, you're
and
asking,
whether it's
I think the
the
question is,
document that we requested.
you you're asking questions whether this is a relevant document.
I think what the hearing officer is trying to suggest, how does your question get to that point?
I believe that a document which would have been the detailed call for service report concerning this particular incident would have been a high priority call type involving shots fired. The document we have been given through our FOIA requests indicates that it was a medium priority and that it was for an unwanted person. it calls into question whether or not we have in fact received the documents that we duly requested through the FOIA request process, which is upon appeal directly at issue in this hearing.
We're trying to get to the real heart of this matter, which is that this isn't really about the documents. It's about a belief that the event on 12/14...
I'm going to object to that testimony by Attorney Frank. This is about the FOIA requests.
All
The
communication.
motivations behind Mr. Halbig is that he is a concerned citizen, a brave one at that, and that he is, he has, like any citizen of this country, has an opportunity through the Connecticut FOIA laws to request public, non-privileged, non-exempt documents.
And they've been provided.
We don't know that.
If you want to continue with
It's,
the document.
it's at odds with the facts as we know them. I'd still like to put this in for the
The
Commissioner's
fact that we
consideration.
know is that 26 people were killed on 12/14.
Objection to the
Let's-
testimony
You're-
of counsel. So, just as preliminary what here regarding this document, Chief Kehoe, it purports to be a daily incident log. Do you recognize it as such?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is this an official record of the Newtown Police Department?
Yes.
Okay, and I direct your attention, sir, to page 3 of this document, which has been marked as Complainant's Exhibit C. Are you looking at page 3?
Yes.
Looks like it's for, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but this is for December 14, 2012 at 9:35? At the top of the page?
Yes.
Okay. What is the incident type there?
Unwanted person,
And the location or venue?
12 Dickinson Drive?
Okay, and you understood that to be the Sandy Hook Elementary School?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, I would object, and I'm going to ask what this has to do with the subject of this appeal.
Okay.
Well,
Can you answer the
The
trick
question,
What's the relevance?
yes, sir. Your Honor, we have requested, under FIC 14461, our Exhibit CA is the FOIA request dated April 25th, 2014, in which we asked the police department for call log sheets, particularly under subparagraph 3 of that FOIA request. Subparagraph 3B, we asked for copies of all communications for December 14, 2012, from 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. between the Newtown Police Department and the Connecticut State Police Trooper 1 helicopter. Mr. Halbig testified we did not receive that.
Just so I'm clear on the question. The question was, were all those units Newtown police units?
Yes, sir, that was the question.
Yes.
Chief Kehoe, do you know whether or not there are any transcripts of communications for December 14, 2012 from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. between the Newtown Police Department and the Connecticut State Police Trooper 1 helicopter?
To the best of my knowledge, there are no communications.
No communications?
That's correct.
Her question was transcripts of communications. So do you mean to say, to your knowledge, there was no transcripts of communications?
Well,
I think that was your question, correct?
that was my question, but I think his testimony is what it is. I guess I respectfully take issue with Your Honor asking you if he means to say.
No.
No, we all
Trying
do
to
respect,
clarify.
sir. Understood.
Trying to clarify your answer, which wasn't quite on point.
Chief Kehoe, do you know whether or not there's any audio of communications between your department and the Trooper 1 helicopter for the state police on that day?
There is no audio, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay? Do the dash cam videos typically contain a date stamp, a time, a unit, or an officer's name in the video?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us why there was no date stamp or time on the video shown to Mr. Halbig yesterday by your executive secretary?
what you reviewed yesterday was a copy. The best we could do to copy our in-car camera system to a medium that could be viewed by you, and that was our best attempt to copy it.
How did, so if the originals had date and time stamps on them, how did those date and time stamps fall off of the copies which were given to us for viewing yesterday?
I'm not sure they did.
Did you review the?
They're embedded in that copy of the video reviewed yesterday.
And how do you know that?
Because I viewed it,
And did you actually see them appear on the screen,
Yes.
superimposed on the video?
yes.
Okay, so you did review them prior to allowing us to view them yesterday?
Yes,
And it's your testimony that there were date and time stamps on them at the time that you reviewed them?
yes.
Okay. So, I see that you and your attorney have had an opportunity to review this. Do you understand what this document is? Do you recognize it?
I'm only reading it. It's a Trooper 1 flight log on December 14, 2012.
And, can you read the description?
Objection. This document's not in evidence,
It will be.
Would you like to
not based on this testimony.
Well,
want
let's,
this put into evidence?
I'm requesting that it be put into evidence at this time.
And what's the relevance of this?
It's a communication. It purports to evidence a communication between the Newtown Police Department and the Trooper 1 flight log.
This witness.
So your testimony, Chief Kehoe, is that there was no communication between the Trooper 1 flight and between the Newtown Police Department and the Connecticut State Police Trooper 1 helicopter that day.
That's correct.
Okay.